Since I'm a middle-aged, thank you, white guy that doesn't apparently know how to read current research, I would like to talk to a female. I'd like to welcome nutritionist and CEO and owner of ProFit, Kelsey Koehler. Kelsey, thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Weigh in on this.
Data is really what matters. And I run lab tests on my clients, so everybody does blood tests, I do stool testing, and fat is an organ, and it influences inflammation, it influences your hormones, and it puts stress on your organs, and eventually those organs begin to fail. And I've seen that over and over on lab testing, and so it's something that we have data to prove. Also, being obese is putting you at risk for all-cause mortality, which is cardiovascular disease, diabetes, and just organ failures, like even the gallbladder is included in that too.
Not to mention orthopedic problems, which are huge.
What are some of your favorite studies that you've read that aim to research people who are, as you say, obese, so people who are overweight, who don't have organ failure, who don't have orthopedic issues? What are some of your favorite studies and research that you've read exploring healthy fat people?
Well, nothing in medicine's 100%.
Sure.
So you're going to look at data and you're going to look at percentages. And when you look at people who are 40, 50 more pounds overweight, the statistics tends to indicate, and this is very well documented, that they run more problems. It doesn't mean that everybody who's overweight is going to have these problems, but the risk is much greater than a person who is at ideal BMI.
What body fat is inflammatory. So regardless of how much you have, it is increasing inflammation, and inflammation is the root cause of all disease, regardless of what it is. And so it's important to look at the data in regards to that and really look at, okay, are you insulin resistant? Because insulin resistance can lead to dementia. They're calling dementia type 3 diabetes. And if you're insulin resistant now, then you're setting yourself up for things like dementia in the future too.
Well, let me add Cameron to this as well, because Cameron, you're a science and health journalist and have been for 10 years. Does the literature that you review, the science that you review, suggest that being obese and morbidly obese put patients at higher risks for health complications or not?
100%, 100%. And I just want to say, because I've been overweight myself, I have a lot of respect for you guys, and I know what it's like to be mistreated, but I think what you're saying about the science is very, very dangerous. And just to give one example, New England Journal of Medicine, 2017, they tracked 4 million deaths. 60% of them were in obese people. And there's been research done that shows that the bigger you get, the greater your risk for heart disease, for stroke, for diabetes. And the fancy $5 phrase is a dose-response relationship. So the bigger you are, the bigger your risk. So this has been very thoroughly documented, like the doctor said. And people should love themselves, they should respect themselves, but they should not carry that into the science to where they're denying the risk. That's very, very dangerous.
I've also, though, seen documentation that weight-related discrimination and marginalization in society can lead to almost all of the things that science has thought that weight itself was leading to. And so then that opens a conversation of, what actually is the motivating factor behind those trends that we're seeing when we do see them? And we also have a huge problem in this country with scientific literacy, which you know, being a science journalist. And so what I think happens when people go through all of the training, like Dr. Phil, you must have spent at least 5 or 6 years at the University of North Texas getting your master's and your PhD. And so one thing that I'm sure that you learned when you were there, and that a lot of people unfortunately don't learn through like the American schooling system, is that a study is a study. And scientists know the impact of what one study means. But you really do have to look at how is the data collected, and who was studied and how long were they studied, and then were they studied in the same way the initial time, the follow-up time? And
well, let me address that if I can.
Sure.
So you have studies from universities all over the world, different populations, different study designs, different lengths of time, and they all will consistently show that being obese is a very serious health risk.
Do you have a story or a question for me? Click the link in the description and tell me what in the world is going on.